We're now going to talk about the master key to this from the Western tradition, which comes from the Jewish Kabbalah. In the Jewish Kabbalistic tradition, one of their highest esoteric texts is called the Sefer Yetzirah. Sefer Yetzirah means literally the book of formation. And formation in the Jewish Kabbalah refers particularly to the etheric level. But actually it covers the entire process of how things go from higher spiritual levels to then manifest toward the physical. So the Sefer Yetzirah, the book of formation, talks about how things are structured and formed. Within that text, it talks about the 22 letters of the Hebrew classical alphabet. In Old Hebrew, there's 22 letters. In some forms of modern Hebrew, there's 27. But the classical alphabet is 22 letters. And that those 22 letters are understood in the Jewish Kabbalah as being divine forces. They all are the manifestation of a different divine force. Those 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet are described in Sefer Yetzirah as being divided into 3 sets. And they say there are 3 mother letters, and there are 7 double letters, and there are 12 elemental letters. And this is very important and referred to many times in the deeper teachings of the Jewish Kabbalah. Now, many of the texts from the Jewish Kabbalistic tradition that describe this 3-7-12 mystery describe it sometimes in fairly abstract philosophical terms. But there's actually a very practical application of how 3-7-12 is a coding system that was known to the initiates. We need to be aware that in most of the Jewish Kabbalistic texts, like in many ancient traditions, a lot of things were given in veiled language. They would use coding systems having to do with certain letters or certain numbers that held embedded in the code something to do with what the initiates knew and did as practical exercises with their own energy system to attain higher levels of initiation. And so this is true of the 3-7-12. They don't tell you in Sefer Yetzirah what the actual practical application of this is. It's in very general terms. But the actual solving and giving out to the public of this mystery of the harmonic key of the 3-7-12 was actually done by Rudolf Steiner in the early 1900s in a series of lectures that have been collected under the title in English of Reading the Pictures of Apocalypse. So this text, Reading the Pictures of Apocalypse, is where Steiner in his lectures revealed that the 3-7-12 coding was part of a greater coding, which is actually 1, 3, 7, and 12. Now the 1 part of it was not even discussed in the Jewish Kabbalistic text, because at that time that the Jewish Kabbalah came about, it was considered that the divine had to be veiled from human view. Because in the evolution of human consciousness at that time, we had lost direct perception of spiritual realities, except for those who became high initiates. Average human being could no longer see spiritual realities. That's why there are all of these references you find in the Old Western tradition about the veiling of Isis. And the veiled Isis is that you can no longer look upon the face of the spiritual directly. It's veiled from our view. And that concept was taken into the Jewish esoteric system through such things as in the Holy of Holies of the Temple of Solomon. The Holy of Holies was the place where they would actually have the manifestation to be seen by the high priest at a certain time of the year. But this could not be seen by the average person. It was a mystery. It was secret. And so this cubical location of the Holy of Holies, built according to sacred geometry, described in the Book of Kings, and built on a major power spot for the entire planet, at a location in Jerusalem, this location of the Old Temple of Solomon. This Holy of Holies location then was a cube that was open on one side, and that one side that was open was then covered by a heavy veil. So no one could see it except the high priest that went in at a particular time of year. And then, as I said in the Book of Kings, even the highest angelic hierarchy, the seraphim, can manifest to the sight of the high priest. This is also where the Ark of the Covenant was held. But again, these mysteries of the divine were kept from the view of the average person. Isis is veiled, the Holy of Holies is veiled. And for this reason, the divine, which is the one, the unity, was not described in the old Jewish Kabbalistic text. Only the next levels down, the sheaths or the vehicles of the 3-7-12. But Steiner gives the key to the entire process, because by the time that he is teaching in the 1900s, we're now able to, again, lift the veil on the divine. That's why Madame Blavatsky, when she initiated the work of the Theosophical Society, wrote the book Isis Unveiled, which was the beginning of what we think of today as the modern New Age movement, the modern free metaphysical movement that we have in the West today. It began with the Theosophical Society and the publishing of Isis Unveiled. Because at this time now we can look upon the mysteries, we can see the divine again. And Steiner's work was based on developing a new type of clairvoyance that incorporated the logical linear thinking we've developed up to this time to directly perceive spiritual realities again with a higher form of clairvoyance than we had before, that was fully conscious and could be directed from one thing to another with our conscious will. So with that as our background to this, Steiner then revealed the secret of the 1-3-7-12 coding. And that is that the I am spirit core that we described before, that he calls the ego, is related to one particular anchor point in the human subtle bodies. The human astral body is related to 3 specific anchor points within our energy body. And the human etheric life body is related to 7 specific anchor points within our overall body. And the human physical body has 12 major anchor points. So the 1-3-7-12 is the system of the anchor points for the subtle bodies in our overall system of the energy body. It is the key to understanding how to access the power of each subtle body through all of these particular energy points or anchor points. There's only 1 for the ego, there's 3 for the astral, 7 for the etheric, and 12 for the physical. Now the interesting thing about this is that Steiner, when he gave this information out, never mentioned that he was giving the key to this extremely high Jewish Kabbalistic mystery. So because of this, it's still not understood in metaphysical circles today, about 100 years after Steiner gave this talk, that Steiner actually solved this Kabbalistic mystery. So people within the study of Steiner's work, people in anthroposophy today, which is Steiner's system, they have no idea that Steiner gave the solution to this great Kabbalistic mystery from Sephir Yetzirah, because he didn't make that explicit. And they haven't studied the Jewish Kabbalah or other systems outside of Steiner enough to know that. By the same token, the people that work in the Jewish Kabbalah have studied the Jewish Kabbalah text, but nothing in Steiner. So they don't know that all of their intellectual ruminations about 3-7-12 have already been superseded by giving out to the public the real key to that mystery in Steiner's work, which they've never read. We need to be aware that the work of Rudolf Steiner, which runs to over 350 volumes of books he either wrote or collected lectures by Steiner, is a modern encyclopedia of esoteric knowledge. It doesn't have everything in it. You're going to have to go, to be completely honest, other traditions, and particularly some Eastern traditions, to get pieces that aren't contained in it. But it's an incredible treasure trove of updated spiritual knowledge. And so within it, he gave not only this 1-3-7-12 mystery, solving a great hidden aspect of the Jewish Kabbalistic tradition, but he also gives out tremendously hidden secrets of many traditions from around the world. But the thing is that you won't know he's done it unless you know those systems as well. So we're going to be trying in this class and in the upcoming courses to clarify for you the solution to some of these mysteries that have come out in his work. But again, you really won't perceive it unless you know multiple bodies of work and can see them combined together. That's what the modern spiritual science is all about, and that's the foundation for the modern independent path of spiritual initiation.